All right, today I have Shannon and Stephen Mick on. They were going to talk about their Baker Trail Challenge that they just completed together a week ago. So, for starters, give a brief introduction to you guys.
Yeah, so I'm Shannon, and this is my husband, Stephen, and we're both trail and ultra runners. I started ultra running in 2016, and he started in 2017.
So, what?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, did you want to add anything to that intro?
No, that's pretty much it. Yeah, she got me into ultra running. I got her into normal running.
Yeah.
So
So,
until she came along, I was just doing the 5Ks and the half marathons, and yeah, she kicked it up a notch, so to speak.
so wait, what came first? Like her love of trail running or your love of road running?
So I've been running since high school, cross country, and so I just kept it up, doing the 5Ks, the local runs, that sort of thing. And that's what got her into running initially. And then she decided she wanted to do ultra running. And so I had to do something just to keep up. And we ran a trail race together and just loved it. And it kind of took off from there.
Yeah, it started as road running, and then once I discovered ultra running, I never went back to road. It was just trail, trail, trail.
Well, yeah, I don't blame you there. Everybody who says they have their experience with trail running, they always say, hey, trail running's so much better than road running because the scenery you get to see and just the experience and the camaraderie, I guess, is probably the better word to use for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the trail community is just great. We've only had good experiences volunteering at races and seeing friends. It's yeah, it's a small tight knit community, but we're all out there on the trails helping each other out, and it's great.
Yeah, suffering together.
That too, yeah.
Definitely.
So what initially drew you guys to this Baker challenge?
Well, it was a local 50 miler, and 50 miles is my favorite distance. Um, you know, it was, what really drew us to it. Like our friends were all doing it, was one of the
Yeah, and
reasons.
it's within drivable distance, logistically getting to the race, you just camp out the night before, and so seems it's really doable um logistically. And once we ran it the first year, that's just one of the 3-year series to really complete the race. So, you know, we were kind of going to come back for the next couple of years, once we finished that first year.
Yeah, you kind of have to. They hook you.
Yeah, do you guys want to explain that a little bit? Because if people don't know, there's a challenge of 3 races in this Baker series, and they call it the Rolling Pin Challenge.
Yeah. Yeah. So the Baker Trail itself is about 135 miles. So the Rachel Carson Trails Conservancy broke it up into 3 different 50-mile races. So every year you run a different section. There's the north, central, and south section. And then it just rotates. So like the first year we did it, it was the central section. The second year was the south section. And then this year it was the hardest section, which was the north section. And you would earn a race medal. And here I have the pins. So you would
Nice.
earn a race medal, and they all formed a piece of a pie. And they hung like a traditional medal. They were originally hanging on ribbons, and then we would take all 3 of these to the final race. You would earn the third one at the end of the race, and then they would make it all like awesome and beautiful for you. So this is actually, it's marble and wooden, and they all look different. Like Steven's looks different than mine. You know,
Yeah,
show them.
yeah, sure.
Yeah. So kind of to give an idea. So like it just fell apart. And then this is what you would get at the end. So you would earn a section of your pie every year that you completed it. and there's going to be a name plaque with your, I guess, your total time between the 3 races coming in the mail.
Yeah, those are very nice, and that's like a free thing that they do for you guys. Like afterwards, like they just hand that to you.
Yeah,
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 yeah. It was pretty
really
cool.
nice.
One of the first questions they asked us after we completed it this year was, "Are you coming back for the second rolling pin?" Because some people do. They try to earn their second and third, and we're just going to take some time off and
We
just
know
enjoy this for now.
we know people have like 8 rolling pins.
Yeah. I didn't realize that race has been for around that long.
Yeah.
I
So,
think I think this was their 19th year, if I remember
Yeah.
correctly. Yeah.
oh geez, then somebody must have did it like every year, and wow,
Yeah, there's some people
that's a
who do
huge
it a lot.
commitment.
It's a huge
Yeah.
commitment. Yeah.
Did you guys actually run it all 3 years consecutively, or did you have to take a break at all, or?
We did. Our first one was 2021, last year 2022, and then this year 2023. So yeah, we did it all consecutively. If you miss a year or if you DNF, you have to wait a couple years for that same race to come around again. So we were happy to get it done consecutively.
Yeah, that definitely would be the way to go. I mean, I guess unless you did it your first attempt, you DNF'd or something like happened that you couldn't make it, then it wouldn't be as bad. But if you're in like year two and you have to wait, what, what is that, 3 years to be able to do it again? Yeah, that's a long time commitment there.
Yeah.
So, how hard was this course compared to other races that you guys done?
I would say this 50 miler, like this year at the north section, it goes through Cook Forest and a couple other parks. It's the hardest, definitely out of all the Baker races, but I finished that one kind of thinking now this was my 12th official 50 miler, and I think it was up there in my top 350 milers that, as far as difficulty goes.
Yeah, I think this year's the challenge was that the course was muddy from previous rain, so that made it extra challenging on top of the normal water crossings that you get in the north section anyways. And so that added an extra level that made it tougher this year, I think, than the previous years, which were challenging in different ways. Last year, the sun was out. It was more of the road section, so that was the challenge there.
You're getting baked.
And
Yeah.
it's the Baker Trail, it's marked with yellow blazes. And part of the race is I think everybody who runs it takes a wrong turn or multiple wrong turns. I took multiple wrong turns every single time I was out there, and that's
Yeah.
not uncommon.
Right.
Just about everybody does that because sometimes the trail just veers off and
You don't see
you just
it.
stay on the same path and you'll realize, wait, I haven't seen a blaze for a while. And so part of it's a big mental challenge to stay in there and keep going and correcting, getting back on course.
Right. Yeah. Not being hard on yourself, just figuring it out and maybe even trying to make up time that you lost when you did make the wrong turn. Yeah, it was easy to do, especially this year because there was so much mud. Everyone was looking down at their feet, and you made the same wrong turn that I made later. I think everybody missed that turn because Steven was like, all of these footprints, we were following the footprints. And when me and my like group of people I was with came through, we followed their footprints. And of course, that was a wrong turn. And we were all just kind of like, all right, let's figure this out. And nobody's going to complain about it because we were in shin deep mud. And then after we corrected it, we had a water crossing that was up to my shorts. And I like strangers were holding my hand, making sure I didn't like float like away down the water.
But I always tell people that when you do trail races, if you're not getting lost or taking a wrong turn, you're really not experiencing trail racing, at its basic step. Because no matter how many races you do, eventually it's going to happen. It's just when and how far that you go off course is the big issue.
Yeah, both times that I made the wrong turn this year, it was a mile each mistake. So that added 2 miles onto my race. And previous years, thankfully, the turns weren't bad at all. It was maybe like 50 yards max was the mistake, and you figure it out. But this year it was a much more costly mistake.
No, when you guys were talking about it being harder, like we'll call this, I guess, would you guys consider this like the third, like, because what is this? This you said the south or north? Like, so you guys are considering this basically like the end of the challenge?
Yeah.
It all depends when you start too. For some people, it might be the beginning if this was their first section and they decide to do the other ones.
Yeah, I think some people I've talked to said they wish they would get the north section out of the way first, because that is the hardest one. And for us, it just happened to be our last one. But yeah, there were some people I met on race day, and it was their first of the three. So they were getting it done and out of the way.
So the trailhead itself, like we'll call it like mile zero. Like they have like a mile zero, and is that like north or the south? And
For the baker.
I don't know which one would be considered zero, if it's the north terminus or the south.
Yeah, sure.
The odd thing about the south section is I'm not sure it's completely doable right now, because about 2 miles from the south section, there's a bridge that you're not allowed to go on anymore. So you'd have to cross this really big stream or creek or river somehow.
Yeah,
Uh,
with a boat.
yeah.
Yeah. Via boat, because that does not look safe to just, try and swim across.
well, then I guess they got what 11 months to get it done till next year. You know how PA is with their infrastructure.
Yeah, so for the south section, they start not at the very, very south terminus, but more like a couple miles up
Oh, all
near
right.
the train tracks, like after that, what would be that
Right.
bridge crossing, since I think it's that bridge has been out for years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just been something hikers have to figure out, if they're trying to through hike the Baker Trail. Yeah.
Now you guys were talking about like a creek crossing or river crossing, and I saw a couple pictures with people going across like a wire bridge. Now, did you guys actually take the wire bridge, or did you guys trek through the actual creek on that section?
I took the wire bridge.
I did not take the wire bridge. So we had just gotten lost and we found our way back. And then, of course, here's this creek crossing and the wire bridge, which I knew it was coming up eventually. From previous experience with a wired bridge, which is when Stephen and I were visiting the Lost Turkey Trail course that has the wired bridge, and I'm too short. I took one look at that wire bridge and I was like, this isn't happening. I think I'm probably too short for it. Plus, everybody I was with was like, oh, we're all forging across. So we all went down into the water. It was like waist deep, and we just made our way through, and then of course up the muddy bank on the other side, which was almost near impossible. And you just had to cling on to tree roots to pull yourself up.
Now, I noticed you guys finished, I guess, within seconds of each other this year. So you sort of hit in that you guys didn't really run the whole race together. So how did you guys figure out that finish line then?
Yeah, that was I was surprised to see her at the finish, because uh, I was going by feel this year. I forgot my watch. My phone didn't charge during the night, so I just turned it off. So I decided I'm just going to run whatever I feel like. So at the beginning, the trail section, I just took off. So after the race start, after a few 100 yards onto the trail, I zoomed off ahead, and I didn't see Shannon the whole rest of the race, you know, until right before the finish. I see the finish line and I'm getting passed because, I'm just I'm just taking it into the finish line at my own pace. And the runner says, "Look behind you." And I look behind, and there's Shannon smiling, chasing me down, sprinting to the finish. And she ended up passing me. So yeah, I didn't see her most of the race, but yeah, we started and finished together this year.
Yeah, he's a much stronger like technical trail runner, and the beginning of the race was just nothing but a bunch of rocks, which I'm not that great at. Um so he his lead the first 5K, I was 2 or 3 people behind him, and then his lead just grew and grew. And then let's see, a friend at one of the first aid stations tipped me off. She's like, Steven's still like kind of like right ahead of you. You can catch up to him. It's like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm gonna keep after this and kind of just have that as my goal to keep going right now. And then the next time, like that sort of just became my mission. I'm competitive, and I knew it was like, all right, wait a minute. My husband's not going to beat me this year. But I kept going, and then at like aid station, I think it was 5 or 6, and there were 9 aid stations altogether. Another friend tipped me off. He said that Stephen was 20 to 30 minutes ahead, and I'm like, oh no, because that I had already made one wrong turn, and that cost me 1 mile. I'm like, oh no, he's way ahead of me now. I'm gonna have to really like pick things up at the end and hope he slows down. So I had this plan. I was just like, I'm just going to be consistent and continue to pursue this goal. And then I got to aid station 7 or 8, and then another friend was like, Steven was just here 13 minutes ago. I was like, oh, I can get him. And I jumped up and down. I was like clapping. So I hurried up and got through there. And then luckily it was all just rail trail. And um, at that point, though, my body was like, I could walk or I could run an 11 to 12 minute per mile. And that's all I could do because I just spent so much time trying to catch him. But I figured, all right, this might be enough. And I caught up to my friend Katie, who was 2 people in front of me. And then I knew like she wasn't much further behind Steven the entire race because she was really steady. Um, so I knew like once I saw her, then I would see Steven, and I told him like, Katie, I think Steven's right in front of you. Uh, and then this was with 2 miles left in the race. And then I was closing my gap on him, and he had no idea that I was gonna pass
No
him like
clue.
right coming down 100 yards, 50 yards from the finish line.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's
And that's completely different than the first year in 2021 when we ran the course. We just ran the whole course together and helped each other look for blazes and stay on course. And then last year we ran the first 30 miles together, and then Shannon just took off. She was just way too fast. I couldn't keep up with her. So she finished maybe an hour ahead of me last year. So yeah, 3 different races and 3 different kind of strategies that we ran.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. Fun.
well, I'm glad I asked that because like I was like when I was looking at the standings, I was like, when you see couples, that have times with like 2 seconds, you're just like, oh, they just ran together the whole time. So like I'm glad I asked that because that's actually a very good story just to like hear and see how like things played out, especially when it's not planned. I mean, the odds of that happening are so slim within that time frame. It's just that's sort of ridiculous, I guess.
Yeah, when you're running out there for hours, for miles and miles, and then we still finish seconds apart. Yeah, it wasn't planned at all.
No. Yeah.
But we do sometimes train together and sometimes keep a similar pace. So, um,
Yeah.
although my training this year was nothing compared to yours, but sometimes that's how it goes too.
Right. Yeah.
Well, how do you guys usually train for this sort of distance for you? Because like you just said sometimes you train together, sometimes you don't, but you guys more like on the weekends, like taking turns, like watching the kids while one does one, like long run and the other?
Yeah, if we
Mhm.
can get the grandparents
Yeah.
to watch the kid, we can go on a long run together. Otherwise, yeah, we have to
We-
split it up.
Right.
One go out, somebody else go out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
this year, a lot of my training, actually the last couple years, is just on my treadmill desk at work. So just walking a lot of miles is kind of a big part of my training just during the day. Try to get the miles in when I can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you do that. And I have a running coach and I love that and it works for me and it helps make sure that, like mom is taking care of herself. So that's a really positive thing for me.
Yeah, because I mean, since you guys are both runners, to me it's one of those vital things. I always tell people that share the same experiences and like hobbies together, like they just mesh a lot better and makes things a lot funner in the end. Like when you go to an event together, whether somebody's crewing one or you guys are both racing, it just makes things become full circle, like within a relationship. And then getting your children, your aunts, uncles, cousins, when you both run, it just seems to like bring things full circle and gets more people involved.
Hmm. Yeah, that's true. Yep.
And it probably does help when we crew each other too, because
Hmm.
we don't have to really explain much of anything because we know what's going on.
Hmm. Yeah, we know and we kind of know what each other, likes to eat or whatever you need or whatever. Like I think we crew differently. So there's that as well. Yeah, we both crew and run differently in ways.
So
Yeah.
how do you guys decide who's going to do what race?
Hmm.
I think it just depends on who signs up first
Like a
and for
battle.
what. Yeah.
Shout.
Usually Shannon will try every year to make up her list of races that she wants to do, uh, or that she's thinking about it. And then from there, she'll try to narrow it down based on any variety of factors.
Hmm.
I'm to the point where I usually just pick a couple races, maybe even just one or two each year, and just kind of go with that.
Yeah. I guess I'm much more insane when it comes to it. Like I haven't even told him what I want to do next year, and I don't know if it'll happen. But then right after I told him, like, oh, we have to talk about next year's races, he reminds me that he's signed up for Heiner. And I'm like, when's Heiner? And he's like, it's April. And I'm like, in my head, all right, well, that's the same month that I wanted to go down and do U-Rock. So I don't know if U-Rock released the race date yet, but it might either be the weekend after Heiner or the weekend during Heiner. So I don't know if that's going to happen.
It's what is Hunter's usually like the 22nd ish, but I think they might have moved it up to like 18th or 16th ish. Off the top of my head, just stupid facts.
Yeah,
Hmm.
in April. Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it would that be the 50K Hunter or is that the 25K Hunter?
The 50K. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually just this year I actually videoed the whole course as I ran it. Um, eh, I mean the videos are good if you want to check them out if you've never ran it before, but there's a lot of heavy breathing and maybe some swearing or like get out of my ways during the videos just because that's how that race goes sometimes. But it's always a fun, challenging race, though. I will say that, and really good atmosphere with like over 1,000 people. I think it's like 1,300. So one of the biggest NPA, if not biggest, trail race itself.
Yeah. We were talking about that last night, and I think um that's not really my thing, the crowded ones. But I think that the challengingness of the course is a really big draw. But I don't think that's one I'd ever do. But I'm glad that I'm gonna go and like crew and spectate Steven doing it.
Well, I'm just gonna throw this out there since he signed up for the 50K and World's End and Eastern. haven't opened yet. Would there be a Triple Crown in the future, maybe?
You can do World's End and Eastern.
I have wanted to do World's End, but Eastern, I don't know. I'd have to warm up to that idea, especially after hearing what happened there this year. It sounded pretty brutal.
Yeah, it's definitely a very unpredictable race because of that 20,000 feet up and down, and with the rain this year, it just was a different animal than in past years, I guess.
I do like having a race on the radar, though. Perhaps you do too, Dean. Having something to work towards, or a goal. Otherwise, I found my running kind of languishes. I'm not really as motivated, so I do like having something out there to work towards, to look forward to.
Yeah, it definitely does help a little bit. I mean, I would say for most people, maybe some people it burns them out, but that's just, I guess that's more of a mentality slash training thing than actual like goal. Like if you're getting burnt out trying to do it, then I don't think it's really a goal. It's just something you say you want to do type of thing.
Yeah, I'm not trying to beat any course records, so when I'm training, I'm just training to finish, to complete it intact and be able to drive home afterwards, basically.
Oh.
So getting back to the Baker a little bit, this is a point to point race, which if people don't understand that, that's you start at one spot and then you have to get to the other one by finishing, hopefully. So there's a little bit of a logistical aspect of it. So did you guys take the bus or did you leave two vehicles or how did you manage that at all?
We took the bus all 3 years that we did it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we just camped out the night before, woke up early, 4 a.m., catch the bus at 5 a.m. They shuttle you to the start line, and then you have to finish the course because you got to get back to your vehicle. So
Yeah.
you got to keep going.
So how are like because you've been on some other bigger races, how are the aid stations at these three races compared to other races? And like what do they have anything unique at any of them, or is it just your typical aid station food?
Hmm. I think it was pretty typical, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, had sandwiches, like peanut butter and jellies and grilled cheese and yeah, what else?
Yeah, you kind of your basic aid station stuff that you'd expect. Yeah, chips and salt and potatoes and yeah, well stocked and
Hmm.
yeah, water and Gatorade.
All the good things. There might have been some shots that I missed out on somewhere because I thought I heard someone say whiskey. You always got to ask, to get the good stuff.
Yeah, there is a lot of alcohol, I guess, involved in trail running now. More so, I guess, the after party. Did they have a big party at all? Like after party?
So I thought the first 2 years that we did it,
They
it was like a larger kind of after party. Those ones both finished on a farm. The middle section and the south section both have the same finish. Because for the south section, you go south to north, and then for the middle section, you go north to south. So those 2 years, it's the same finish line, essentially on a farm. And this year was different because we're going, north to south and finishing a different location.
Yeah, the barn, where it ends at those other 2 years, it's a really nice spot. Kind of just out in the middle of nowhere. It's big and spacious, and like the barn itself is big. Then the farmhouse, and you just kind of camp out in the field. Yeah.
See, I didn't even realize that. Like I've looked at these races, but I haven't gone in depth because I never got in. I usually don't do my research until I get into a race. And just right there, like I never even knew that, you went opposite directions for two of those to end in the same spot. I was just always assuming, you know, you start here, you finish here, you start here, then you finish there, and you keep going. So that, like that's just news to me, and maybe some other people that didn't really do their due diligence yet.
Yeah, essentially the first part of the course is on the trail, and then at the end, it kind of routes you towards the finish. So I think on all three routes, the ending miles are more road or rail trail. It's a little bit easier. And thankfully, at that point in the race, you're ready to stop looking at blazes and you're ready to be off the trail. You just want to get to the finish. So it's kind of well designed in that respect, I think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. And then at the finish line, at least the 2 years that it finished at the barn, going back to the party, like it, there was a lot of people hanging out and enjoying themselves. The barn, there's just tables of food in there, chili, pretty much everything was nice.
Did you guys take polls at all, or did you think you guys needed polls in any of the sections?
No, I don't think we usually do polls for 50 milers.
Yeah.
I found poles really handy when I did Laurel Highlands and Oil Creek 100. I think, for distances over 50 miles, I'm all about the poles, but there was a couple climbs that would have come in handy. The mud, it would have helped a little bit, but they probably would have just got stuck in the mud anyways.
Yeah, they would have definitely gotten stuck in the mud. I didn't feel like poles were necessary for this race. Now, the climbs were steep, and there were a lot of them, like surprisingly a lot of them. Even though I looked at the elevation chart, there was more out there than I thought. But like, the climbs weren't very long, so I didn't think that it was that bad.
Yeah, because that's one of the questions I like to ask people as well is when you don't know a course, like you just said, like some of the more technical or the longer races, it does save your legs, but like a 50-mile race, it's sort of on that edge where is it an advantage or is it disadvantage because of the weight and then taking it in and out and losing time. So it's one of those things you have to weigh. But I mean, if you saw Zach Miller the other day at UTMB using his pulls, oh my gosh, that dude fly on pulls. So I think we're going to see a lot more pull action at some of trail races now because just how great he did at the race. Um, so of the three races, what section gave you the biggest problem and what section was the easiest or the section that you would like the most to go back and just have fun on?
I would go back to the north section, the first miles on that trail, and I would go back and revisit those just because it was so scenic. It's probably my favorite section of the trail, and I can see why some people love the north section more than the rest too, just because it's beautiful out there.
Right. Yeah, the north section, I mean, I bet a lot of people are familiar with the Cook Forest area. You come up the Baker Trail and past the fire tower and the what's it called? What's that scenic lookout called? Is it Seneca Point or something? I don't remember. Past that, and then you start down that big hill towards the river, and just that big descent was a lot of fun. And um just growing up and going there and hiking. And then whenever I first had Ember and Stephen and I went hiking down that section of trail, I was actually kind of tearing up because it was just so like bringing back the memories and just having so much fun running down the hill and trying to not die and like everything at once. It was just so much fun. So that brought up some really good memories. And then another thing that really sticks out to me was, let's see, what is it? The first year one during the central section, that trail sticks out in my mind, the technical part of it, because it was so technical. And that was where we saw that dam. We got a picture in front of the dam, but he got stung by something on his back under his like shirt and pack, and it was like just this giant like this big welt on him. That had to be so painful. Well, then so like he got stung that year, and then the next year was my turn to get stung. So we were coming up this big hill on the trail, and of course, at the top of the hill, there was like a hornet, and it went like right up my shorts and stung me. So then there was that, and then I had that to focus on the rest of the race because it hurt so bad. It hurt. It took all of the other pain away because it was just like, this hurts so bad. It doesn't matter if my legs hurt because this hurts worse. And then luckily this year, it was my long training run before the race. I got stung on my arm by a hornet, and I was like, all right, I got stung. This means I'm not getting stung at the race this year. So I think that took care of that because I didn't get stung this year, and you didn't get stung either, right?
Yep.
So we were good there.
Yeah, it seems to happen a lot. Even though like these trails are really worn, there's always critters and like hornets and stuff that like people still get stung by, and it's just I guess they move in overnight sometimes and just build nests, and it's just ridiculous how quickly sometimes these bees nests pop up on these trails like Laurel Highlands or oh crap, where I forget where I was at the other day, but they're there one day, then the next day everybody's getting stung. It's just I don't know, par for the course, I guess.
Trail running.
Well, it's one of the I guess the downsides because I mean if you're not like one of the first two that step on it, like I mean you're good if you're one of the first two, but if after that every person after that just like aggravates them. So by the time, like I say, so if you're like the last person that's running the like in the race, you're sort of screwed because they're so aggravated at that point. They're just like, we're gonna get everybody and every as much as we can. So is there anything else that sort of makes this race unique compared to like some other races?
So I would say, they've done a really good job at getting women to register, and they've given away free spots to women. This year we had 50% of the field was, women. So that was really nice. Yeah, it's usually, it's around 18, 20%, maybe 30 or 40% women, but I've never been a part of anything where half of the participants were women.
Yeah, I noticed she was like posting online that she was really like pushing for like equality and like trying to get that ratio as close to 50 as possible. So did you guys really notice the difference? Because like I know when you're running, you might get in with a group of friends, you really don't notice it, but like was the presence really felt this year?
I think
Yeah.
mainly at the starting line, at least for me, um, because there were sections where I was just running by myself, so both this year and last year, stretches of miles where I wasn't really too close to anybody. But you could definitely tell at the start line, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I usually am like him where I'll just run for a really long time and not see anybody. I'll just be by myself. But this year I was actually around a lot of different people. So both men and women. And it was funny because with all of so like every once in a while, there'll be a tree that's down, and with the mud being so deep and the water crossings being so deep, being a short woman that I am, all this stuff is harder for me, to get through all these obstacles. But this year there was a woman who was, right in front of me, and we were pretty much the same pace for a few hours. And so we were going through all these things together in the mud and the water, and at the at literally the same time, we were like, this is short person problems, and we really connected there because she gets it.
Yeah.
And then and then the guy behind us, he was like paying attention to us because I guess he was newer at trail running. And he was just watching us because he knew we knew what we were doing, right? And I don't know how he got that, but he was putting together, the fact that we were taking like so many more steps than he was to just cover the same amount of ground. So I take like 2 steps per every one of Steven's steps. Um, so it was funny that another like person noticed us out there with, our short legs and our struggles, our unique struggles as short people.
Now, you guys had a lot of friends at this race. How was that seeing everybody? And did they give like you were sort of hitting at it at the aid stations, like, hey, he's only a couple minutes ahead and whatnot. So did that make it more enjoyable having all your friends out there, like getting to talk to people during the whole race, or is it just one of those things that like becomes bothersome at all, like by the end?
I think it's a lot of fun to, like you create all these memories together and then you can share them, years later, you still remember it, or maybe somebody remembers it better than you and you still have that memory.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that bonding and suffering together, I think, yeah, that shared experience is really good. And so I think seeing some of the same people and connecting is, yeah, what we really like about this trail series, especially since these races tend to bring people back year after year. And you do need to do, 3 separate races to really complete the challenge. You do end up seeing some of the same runners, right, year after year. And so that's a good thing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, 'cause, I ran with a woman who was struggling. We were coming into aid station, I think it was 8. And I helped pick her up and keep her going, but I remembered talking to her last year, so she's was gonna finish this year and then go back next year and get her rolling pin too.
Yeah, I'm a big talker when I'm out there as well, as much as I can, unless I'm breathing real heavy. But then once I hit that death zone, I'm just like, oh, just get away from me. I don't want you to see me. It's sort of like an embarrassing like thing from like for me, like when I hit that wall. But like any other time, I'm like, hey, let's go, let's get this done. Like at the aid stations, I'm bouncing around doing my thing. But it's always fun, actually seeing familiar faces. Like when I go out of the area and I don't get to like see anybody, sometimes it's like, man, I just wish I would see somebody just to be like give them a high five that I knew, just lift my spirits on.
Yeah, and I think even if you are having a rough time out there, like people get it. We've all been there, highs and lows during our races. So even if you are like really irritable, people are gonna be like, they'll be fine in about 5 minutes from now.
When I'm in an aid station, I always like to egg people on. Like there's a really big hill coming and it's going to be really hard. I'm like, oh, it's easy. Your grandparents used to do it. You're going to have no problem. Like, you you sort of break the news to them in a easier way than maybe what they perceive what's going to happen in the next section between aid stations. Or well, there's some people I'm just like straight up, yeah, this is going to suck. You're going to have a good time. So you guys are in the Butler County Milers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there any other like running groups that you guys are associated with or anything like that?
No, I don't think so.
No, that's it. That's all I can think of. Yeah.
Well, I want to say it is one of my favorite groups. Like, cause since I'm so sociable and try to do stuff. I always tell Sean and them, I was like, man, you guys like you're like the same type that I explained to Sean is you're always like positive, upbeat, and you guys are always smiling. Like no matter where you are, like the couple of times I've seen you out, like where was it? Like for instance, like Rabid Raccoon when it was so cold out, you guys are like still smiling, having a good time, even though it was what 10 degrees, I think.
It was pretty gnarly that day.
No, do you have any other exciting plans for this year? Any races that you guys have on your calendar?
Not yet, but I think we're still kind of open to looking at different possibilities.
Yeah,
So,
we're figuring it out. I had a friend reach out to me a few weeks ago to just bounce an idea off of me. He wanted to know if I could pace him at Canal Corridor, which is October 7th. And I said, yeah, because he wants to, have another chance at getting into Western states. So, but he was deciding between that and another race, one out in Illinois. I'm like, well, I can help you with the Ohio one, but not Illinois because that's too far for me for right now. But it's like that's an option. And then Oil Creek 100 is also October 7th. And I have friends that are going to be up there doing that. And I don't know if I'm not at Canal Corridor, then maybe we'll be up there volunteering and watching them suffer.
yeah. So we're looking into different pacing and crewing options.
Yeah.
Now, what would you rather do, pace or crew?
No, I would rather pace. Get out there and just get more experience, and learn kind of how somebody else does it.
Now, did you guys happen to watch you like since UTMB was this past weekend, did you guys watch it at all?
I didn't watch it. I just read some of the reviews and kind of commentary on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't take any time to watch it. Although I was showing Stephen Andrew Glaze's Instagram post of the cow that went viral. Like he's hallucinating at mile 85 and then he comes across this cow in the middle of the trail and the cow is like eating her dinner and she's like moo. That was pretty funny. And I mean, that reminds me of the one year I was doing Oil Creek 100 and it was the middle of the night and there's all this eerie noises. It was really loud in the middle of the night and it was just echoing like through the woods. And then we came into an aid station and everyone was like, what is that noise? It's so scary. And we learned that cows had escaped from a nearby farm and were in the state park. They're like, don't get trampled by the cows. Don't startle them if they're on the trail. And then I just stuck with my buddy after that.
Yeah, cows are a very unpredictable animal. They either like you or they hate you. I'm trying to think what else. I think that was about it. All I had, like question wise. Is there anything else you guys want to add about the Baker Challenge or any other races that you want to do or have done?
Want to add anything?
Want to add anything? I definitely recommend Baker if anyone wants to go out and you don't even have to, commit to all 3 years if you don't want to. Just go out and do one and see what you think. But I definitely recommend going for the rolling pin, and I think that a lot of other people will probably also jump on that bandwagon and be like, yeah, you do 1 year, you got to do all three of them. It's definitely worth getting the pin.
I've been checking the fastest known time site every once in a while, and I haven't checked recently, but the last time I checked, nobody has an FKT on the Baker Trail. So if anybody's listening and has a huge goal, maybe you could be the first one. If you just finish it, you're going to be there. You're going to have the FKT.
That would be tempting. 135 miles again?
135 miles. Although you're probably going to get lost. It's probably going to be 135 plus, but
Yeah.
Now, this would have been a perfect weekend if somebody have attempted it too, like a 3-day weekend. That's really all you need, I guess. Yeah, 3 days, 45 miles a day.
yeah, depending on whether you do it supported, unsupported, or self-supported. Yeah.
Well, I'm a sleeper, so I definitely need like a van or something. Like those longer races, like 100 mile. I'm sorry, once I hit like the 20-hour range, I'm sleeping somewhere. I don't care if it's in the dirt or what, but yeah. If I'm not done by 20 hours, we're sleeping somewhere. Um, I don't know. What did the pitch what you do at all, like with your business before we end?
Oh, yeah. So, I'm a national certified counselor and licensed professional counselor here in Pennsylvania. So I work with people on anxiety, trauma, and eating disorders. And of course, I work with endurance athletes as well. So that's what I do, professionally. But over the past 2 years, I've been trying to open up a second small business just to see runners and endurance athletes around the United States to do some mindset and mental wellness coaching. So kind of taking people, looking at their goals and whether it's wellness or running related, whatever it is, and helping them come up with a plan for that and providing support as I would, in the professional counseling. So my role doesn't change a whole lot. It's just less, it's more coaching wise. But yeah, I do that. Race day visualizations, all sorts of things to help out runners because we have so many unique challenges that, we have to overcome.
Yeah, I'm a metal case myself. I probably screw with my metal more than like, well, as much as like a David Goggins does, but whew. So how would people get it in contact with you if they like want your services?
Yeah, so you can go to finishstrongermindsetcoaching.com and learn about my services there. Contact me through the contact tab at the top and send me a message, or they can just send me an email at bshortrunultra@gmail.com, that's where the contact form, it goes straight to my email anyways. So either way you do it, whether it's through my website or just through bshortrunultra@gmail.com or yeah, right, .com. I get it either way. So, yep.
Awesome. I did want to touch on that because I know you've been like doing some things online with that. So it's one of those things since we're talking about running, it might be something that somebody listens to on this that, wants to, you might be able to help with.
Yeah, yeah. I can help with a lot of different things. Yeah, I find it really exciting to learn what people want to work on and, all of that.
Yeah. If I started telling you what I do before a race, you'd be like, you need help bad. Like I tell people like I go through like I always like an adrenaline rush, but sometimes like I have to put myself like in a very sad emotional state to like bring myself up to get like pumped back up and it's not good for your brain and I know that, but I'm slowly paying for it now, but so I'll probably have to see you in a couple months here.
Sounds good. We can talk about it.
Um, I guess if you guys have nothing else to add or want to talk about, I guess we could wrap that up if it's up to you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having us. This is my debut podcast, so yeah.
Hey, anytime you guys do big race or have like even if it's a 5K that you want to talk about, reach out to me and we'll talk about it because the more races that people get information from firsthand, the better because that way, hey, if you had a good experience and we can like sort of promote it and just get a different perspective, or if it's a bad experience, hey, this person didn't know what they were talking about, it gives people, hey, a heads up as well. So I like to hear both sides, whether it's good, bad, or maybe just like had a cow start talking to you in the middle of a race. So, that's a good story. So I like hearing good stories. If you ever have any, please reach back out to me.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right. I guess we'll stop it there, and you guys have a good rest of the yeah, it's Labor Day weekend, so have a good rest of your Labor Day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks, Dean.
Yep.